You're listening to The Foundation of Wellness, a refreshing take on diet and lifestyle, with Jessica Dogert, a registered dietitian nutritionist, and Marisa Moon, a primal health coach.
Hey you guys, my name is Jessica and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and you can learn all about me on my website at jessicadogert.com.
Hey, what's up? This is Marisa Moon. I'm a certified primal health coach. I'm the writer for mylongevitykitchen.com and intermittent fasting coach from marisamoon.com. Let's get started.
Today is such a cool day. So we have a guest named Bret Gornik, and he's the co-founder of Live Better. And his goal is to help people follow their calling by using wellness as their fuel to have the best day ever, every day. And he uses goal setting and actionable tools to help everyone find true happiness. So Bret stepped away from his corporate lifestyle to pursue his own path with Live Better, and he now hosts wellness retreats across the world. He works with one-on-one clients for performance in training, nutrition, and lifestyle design, as well as corporations on experiential wellness. Bret loves superfoods. He loves traveling with a purpose. He loves yoga, functional training, running, and always learning more.
What's up, Bret? Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to chat.
You guys are doing a lot of cool stuff with Live Better. People have to hear where you just came from. You did this amazing destination retreat, which I think you've had a little practice at 'cause it's not your first one, right?
Yeah, we just got back from Tulum, Mexico. We were down there. It was our 6th retreat that we've ran. Jason Lobig and I run Live Better, and it was an extremely amazing experience. We had 16 people that came on this trip down for a week in Mexico, and we just got back, so I'm still riding the high from that. It was really, really awesome. It was super cool to get people down there. Put them through our programming and just turn that group of individuals into a community and welcome them to the Live Better tribe.
So cool.
Wow, Bret. So can you tell our audience about the best day ever concept?
Yeah, so the best day ever, when you first start hearing it, it sounds very like foofy and kind of dumb and kind of just like, all right, these guys are just talking and just like promoting this. But the reality of it is this, every single day we have the opportunity to create our best day ever. So you get cut off in traffic and you can either react to that negatively or you can just let that slide by. If you have a bad morning, if something bad happens to you, if things aren't going to plan, you have the entire afternoon to make that your best day ever. And it sounds very much like, how can I have the best day ever every single day? But it's a conscious choice. And once you start doing that, once you start surrounding yourself with the right people, following your calling, and this is a true thing. And once you really ingrain that into your mind, you just start thinking it. And once you start saying it every single day and you start signing off your emails and finishing every Instagram post with it, it becomes part of you. And when I was in the corporate culture, I started signing off my email with that. And I remember my boss came up to me and was a little bit off put and thought I was like making a joke. And from that day forward, I was like, all right, like I know this environment isn't for me. If people don't believe that they can do that just because it's a Wednesday or a Monday, like we're recording this right now, it doesn't matter the day of the week. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you have the craziest, coolest plans, if you're taking a trip to Tulum or Paris or anywhere. It can be the worst weather in Chicago, and you can still create that just by knowing you're on this journey. And I think that's super important, is having purpose and having that passion coincide with one another. So once that is met and you know you're doing your calling and you're on your path, it's just on you to make sure that what you're doing that day is providing you with the best day ever.
I have to say, just for the listeners, we've known Bret and Jason from Live Better for years because of Hi-Vibe, the organic superfood juicery where Jess and I met in Chicago. And Bret and Jason are these badass ambassadors and always just show us what it's really like to live life at the fullest. And I remember I didn't know Bret well, and he would always like text. His response would be like, "Okay, have the best day ever," and I never thought anything negative about it. Actually, it always made me giggle or smile, and it seemed like kind of, I guess you could say, like fantasy like it can't be real, like he can't mean that. But the longer I knew you and the more I saw what you were producing online, I realized like you truly had something there, and it was always inspiring, it was always fun, it was always something that made me smile. And I the only thing I would secretly wonder was, do they ever have a bad day? And then I saw you broke your collarbone and I was like, okay, they do have bad days.
Yeah. Interestingly, so the day I broke my collarbone was in a pretty bad biking accident actually, we were putting on a retreat in Whistler, and it was the day after it was over. And I completely shattered my collarbone, had to end up getting 6 screws, and I got a big metal plate in there. And I remember that, actually, I don't really remember this, but when I was in the hospital in Canada, Jason walks into the room about an hour after I got there, and he heard that I had fallen, and he comes over, and I don't even remember saying this, but he was literally like, the first thing you said, he's like, today's still the best day ever. And I honestly was like kind of delusional and like hyped up on some drugs. But the fact that like even in that moment, it's just like, you know what, this is what happened to me today outside of my control, or maybe inside of my control if I would have been better at mountain biking. But it's still like, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to sit here and sulk, or am I going to continue to move forward? And I mean, that's a pretty extreme example of something that can put you down the rabbit hole. But I remember first day of physical therapy, I walked in and I said, I want to be the best client you've ever had. I want to be not only the fastest to improve, but I want to be the strongest coming out of this. And I just remember my physical therapist being like, what is wrong with you? Everybody comes in here is like pissed off and is like, gosh, I can't believe I got to do these stupid little things that I press my hand against a wall. But it's a process. And it's if it's something that you enjoy doing, which I just enjoy life in general, you can really ingrain that into yourself. And I think, like you said, when it's initially said and thought about, it's either like kind of funny, or for some people, it's a little off-putting, but it's an honest truth. And I think living through that and going through hurdles and ups and downs on a day-to-day basis, it's just wake up, crush, and repeat.
I think that's what makes you so special, is the fact that your energy is just so vibrant all the time, and that makes it so contagious for others. And I don't know if you're aware of the fact that like whoever like you surround yourself with throughout the day, they probably just attract that energy as well. So truly, I mean, hopefully everyone else has just the best day ever because like they were in your presence. That's really cool.
I totally agree. I mean, you guys just post after post have such inspirational advice to give. You guys are always like kicking everyone into high gear when you're teaching at your classes at Barry's. I read your stuff and it's like they are really onto something. I mean, your IG post that was reminding us how to prioritize what means something to us said, if you know having breakfast with your wife or your husband or kids will make you happy through the roughest days, then protect that time at all costs. Be savage about prioritizing it before anything else that you do. If not, it will surely fall by the wayside. I mean, that is some really great advice, Bret. I think we need to like talk about some examples here of what you've noticed people need to start protecting in their own routines.
Yeah, so I think one of the tools that we implement on the retreat, and I've talked about a lot, is protecting your morning. And I think that can tee you up for that best day ever. And I think a lot of it first starts with just self-assessment. What are the things on a good day, or say a day that you don't have too much stress in the morning, that make you feel good? It's taking that, and then it's also taking the research and marrying those together. So, for example, if we flood ourselves with emails in the morning, calls, are, everything that we don't want to have to do that day, or this presentation later in the day, we kind of start at a deficit. And if we do the opposite, if we just wake up and say, I have 24 hours today and I'm going to make the most of it. And I'm going to start my day off with these practices that I know make me feel good. You're going to get to that meeting at the same time. It's 1 p.m., whether you like it or not. So you can go into that and know that you're going into that both mentally and physically prepared to your best ability. Or you can go in being stressed from when you woke up at 6 a.m. So I think it's first just self-reflection on what works for you, but then it's also experimentation. So try new things out. If you're not a morning workout person, you got to try it out. You got to see if that works for you. If you're not a meditation person, you got to try it out. And most people fail because they just don't try hard enough or long enough. And one of the principles that I live by is that consistency is really the only true way to make a change in yourself. So if we don't do something consistently for actually a long period of time, not 2 days, not a week, not a month, but 2 months, 3 months, a year, you won't actually understand the benefit it has for you. And so I think you have to really put down some time and organize that morning in a specific way, making sure that the things you're doing in that routine are actually serving you later in the day. So if you prepare yourself mentally in the morning through breath work or meditation or listening to uplifting music, and that's going to help you calm down and get you ready for that speech in the afternoon, that's amazing. You want to make sure that what you're doing serves a purpose, that it's repeatable, and that you actually practice it consistently, because if it's just on and off and sporadic, it's not going to give you that cumulative effect where you're really going to start to see how it can transform your thought, your action, and just who you are as a person.
I really love how one of your steps is just experimenting with things. I genuinely feel like, especially when I'm working with clients, like we have to do different to get different. And, sometimes we have no idea that, we enjoy working out in the morning. We're just so set in stone in our ways because they've just been ingrained in us as like part of our routine. But it's like, instead of saying like, okay, I only work out at night, or, I hate doing like an elliptical, or I hate doing a stair workout, or I never lift weights. It's like, tell yourself, hey, maybe I am that person who can lift weights, or maybe I am that person who can work out in the morning. And like just having that mental shift of like, I could be anyone who I want to be, and perhaps this is who I am. It can really change things for you.
I'm going to say totally. I think one of the kind of discoveries I've made in my life very recently in the last year really goes to your point, Jess, that a lot of our decisions, and actually like the research shows anywhere from 70 to 80% of the decisions that we make throughout our day are actually subconscious. So we've got a conscious mind that is helping us all day, but then a lot of the repetitive things we do are actually underlying that. And our subconscious was essentially given to us in our youth. So from age 0 to 7, we actually form the majority of our habits that we take on. And from those years, we don't have a conscious. You're getting shipped around to soccer games. You're going to school because it's close to you. You're on the family vacations because your parents planned it. Your nanny is helping you with schoolwork, then your mom, and then your dad. Your teachers are just the ones that were there for you. Your friends are in close proximity. You're watching the television that has the commercials on it. So all of those inputs are just given to us. And there's no way you can have a consciousness at that age because you're just so young. But what most people don't realize is now that we are entering, 20, 30, 40, 50, the decisions that we're making, the patterns that we've developed were actually created in those first 7 years of our lives where we had no control. And so the only way to really break that, and a lot of those are good things, saying please and thank you, holding the door for people, seeing how your parents interacted when they were having a good time. A lot of those things are great, but we pick up on things that might not be so great. For example, like you said, working out in the morning. If your family would wake up late every single Saturday, there's no way you're going to be that morning workout person. You're not taking the 7 a.m. berries class on Saturday morning just because you've never seen that. And the only way to break those habits, the only way to actually become conscious about the decisions that we're making is through consistent effort. So it's going to suck. It's going to be hard to wake up every single morning at 5 a.m. to get to that 6 a.m. class. But once you start doing that for a consistent amount of time, and I see this with a bunch of the clients that I train that shift to start working out in the morning, your day is set up for so much more success because now you've got energy, you've got vibrance, you're more conscious of your health choices because you just worked out. So you don't want to go slam that donut. You'd rather get an acai bowl from Hi-Vibe. So it's something I think that takes a serious amount of effort. And that effort is most of the time under publicized because people don't really register how hard it is to break those patterns. But through consistency, through surrounding yourself with the right people and just being very conscious that it's going to be difficult, you can do so much and you can really elevate your daily potential.
I always tell my clients, small changes with consistency will just lead to those mighty outcomes. So I love how you're really honing in on the consistency factor. And I know that Marisa was really excited when we mentioned the idea of decision fatigue as a topic for today.
Yeah, decision fatigue is something I had to give attention to in my own life over the years once I started learning that it even existed. And I know you covered that in a couple of your posts, Bret. Decision fatigue is something I'm totally interested in.
Decision fatigue for me is definitely one of kind of my hot topics that I love to discuss. And just like you said, it was something that I had to take on first because when I was working at Walgreens corporate, which is my final corporate job, it was a lot of hours. It was a lot of stressful work. And on top of that, Jason and I were really deep in starting Live Better with this goal of exiting the corporate world and starting our own thing. And so the only way that I would have enough mental capacity to do that was to set my day up perfectly every single day. If I didn't do that, if I was wasting time making decisions about things that were unnecessary, I had a mental fatigue by the end of the day. And then when it was time for Jason and I to meet at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night to just throw around ideas, I wasn't sharp enough to do it. Not only that, but I felt my workout performance decreasing. I felt my attention to my relationship decreasing. And yes, there was a lot going on because I was training clients early in the morning, working all day, training clients at night. So it was just a lot of hours of being on. I really had to dive into this idea. And once I heard it formulated in this way, I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like our mental capacity drains with every decision that we make. Very much similar to our energy source with the amount of food and nutrition that we put into our body. So I think just reframing and understanding that the mind isn't unlimited in its capacity and it does fatigue is super important. And then you can start to, hone in on practices to amplify that.
Well, the way you described it in your article made it so clear to me, even though it's something that I really value already. I know the term decision fatigue might mean nothing to some of our listeners. Well, you said, why is conserving brain power important throughout the day? Well, you don't have unlimited energy, and using your brain throughout the day spends that cash. Consider it like you have 100 points to use and no more before you run out of that mental energy. And each decision costs you a varying number of points depending on the time it takes to make that decision and the complexity. Decisions that we make throughout the day that we should try to automate or just spend less time deciding on.
Yeah, so a lot of where this stems from is preparing your day. And so the one thing, one of the good things that was in my youth was my mom would always say, get ready everything the night before that you can for the next day. And I just remember her saying that repeatedly. And so I started implementing that practice kind of like once I graduated college, more specifically, because I got into more of a routine. And I think we don't understand that our mind does fatigue. So that 100-point example is a great way to start. You've got 100 points every day to make decisions. And everything you do, every single decision you make, whether you realize it or not, is dwindling down those points. So Let's start with the big ones. You've got a big presentation or a big client meeting or an initial meeting with a huge new opportunity. Those are going to take up a lot of points, 50, 60, 70 points. So we want to conserve as much energy, as much mental capacity as we can for that time. And again, this is a repeating thing day in and day out. So things that we can do, which are simple, which most people don't register that take points, are what can we get ready the night before? So today's a Monday. So Sunday night, I spend pretty much every Sunday getting my meals ready for the week. So I do a lot of meal preparation, or I understand that I look at my schedule on certain days. I have meetings with people. So we're going to grab a smoothie or a salad. So I already know that those are ready. I don't have to worry about that. I get my clothes ready the night before for what I'm going to do that day. I wake up very early. I train clients. Like tomorrow morning, I'm teaching a 5 a.m. class. So I'm up early. So it's not conducive for me to wake up, have to turn my cell phone light on, go through my drawers, make sure I pick out the socks that match each other and go out and do the day. Now that I'm kind of in this second phase of creating my own schedule, I think it's even more important to be doing these things now, because now I have the opportunity, if I want to like go back home and get stuff ready. But every time I do that, it's taking more points. So it's simple things like getting your clothes ready the night before, making sure your morning routine stuff is set out for you so that you execute it in the morning, setting your alarm at the right time so you're not snoozing it 15 times. In a normal day, somebody wakes up, they hit their alarm 4 times, they roll out of bed, they hop in the shower, brush their teeth, go into their closet, take 10, 15 minutes to figure out what they want to wear. They go look in the mirror. They're like, I don't really want to wear this. They go back and they change it. And then by that time, they're already running late for work. So instead of having their, healthy eggs and their green smoothie that they were going to make that morning, they run into the office. And on the way to the office, they go grab a crappy cup of coffee and a donut just to cure that. Then they get to the office and they're already feeling a little bit fatigued. So the first 15 minutes of their day, instead of diving right into work or planning out their week, is checking Facebook or Instagram or going through old emails from some company that they're going to buy some clothes from. Then by that point, they're, physically fatigued, mentally fatigued, and it gets to 11 o'clock and they're starving because the breakfast that they had wore off too quickly because it's just a bunch of simple carbs and sugar. So now it's 11 o'clock and all they're worried about is what they're going to eat for lunch. So they start getting on the chat and they say, hey, where do you want to go for lunch? What do you want to eat? They start hitting up their friends. Hey, are any of you guys free today? So from 11 to 12, instead of being productive for that 2 o'clock meeting, they're deciding what they're going to eat for lunch. Then they get something thrown on their desk at 11:30. So now it's 11:30 and it's 12:30. And now they missed all that time with their friends for lunch. So then they just go down to the cafeteria, grab the slice of pizza, get back up to their desk. So now they're eating bad food because that decision wasn't made the day before. The food is not serving them functionally. So then they show up to the 2 o'clock meeting and they have to pound a cup of coffee, which is their third or fourth of the day. And they get into that meeting and they're not only physically, but mentally fatigued. So that meeting doesn't go as well as they want. Then after that meeting, they're completely cashed out. They're answering their emails. They get done with work and they were planning to go work out after work. But by the time they get home, they sit down on the couch and they're 15 episodes into a Netflix series. They order something online for food and they sit down and they go to bed. And that's pretty much what's happening to the majority of people on a day-to-day basis. And if it's not on a day-to-day basis, that happens once or twice a week. So then you reframe that and you take a step back, and with only about 15 minutes, 20 minutes of work the night before, your day completely changes. You laid your clothes out. Not only that, but you laid your gym clothes out and you got your gym bag ready for you so that you're going to bring it to work. Your lunch is ready because you prepped it on Saturday, so you're not even, or Sunday, so you're not even worried about that. You've got all of your stuff ready in your blender. So right when you wake up in the morning, you're just going to blend that thing off while you're taking a shower. So you just reframe these simple things and you essentially are just giving yourself all of these points. So now when you're in that meeting, have all your energy. You got your stretching done in the morning. You took a nice shower. Everything went according to plan. You didn't have to snooze your alarm on a million times because you went to bed a little bit earlier and a little bit less cluttered the night before. So everything works out great. And then at 11:30, when that thing's thrown on your desk, you've got your lunch in the fridge. So you finish it by 12:30, you eat your super healthy lunch from 12:30 to 1. You have an hour to prep for your meeting. You're not fatigued. You're not tired. You crush that meeting. So you're super excited. You're super energized. So right after work, not only do you do your workout, but you spend an extra 15, 20 minutes working on some new creative stuff you wanted to do. You get home and you're even more energized because of the workout. So you start working on your side hustle. You write your blog posts or you're reaching out to new people. And in that simple thing, doing that consistently, your life, your entire life starts to upgrade on a day-to-day basis. And that happens, that compounds. You start to realize what's working in the morning. You start to do more of that. You start to weed out the things that aren't serving you. And that continues to snowball into the point where your side hustle turns into your main thing. You're having way better workouts. You start training for a triathlon. All of those things just start to happen because of the day-to-day effort and optimizing your points so that you can really maximize your potential every day.
What I really love so much about everything that you just said is the fact that all it takes is maybe 20 minutes of prepping the night before to have a magical day like the next day. And I think that's really important for all of our listeners because it really just goes to show that, you don't have to spend like excess hours, doing meal prep or, figuring out what you're going to wear the next day. Like as long as you have a little bit of a game plan set in stone, it really does make your next day really the best day.
Well, personally, this reminds me of why I got into decision fatigue in the first place, you guys. I used to be so obsessed with like clothes and shoes and jewelry and bags like every other girl, or maybe not every other girl, but most women at some point in their lives. And I was a fashion management major when I first went to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I thought it was a big part of who I was, but I was getting ready in the morning and getting so stressed out because I didn't leave enough time for my 600 decisions I had to make trying on 25 outfits. And then cleaning my closet or my room was a lot harder. And it started to just drain me like crazy. And after I was done getting ready, it was like everything would just set me off. Like I would be like ready to just blow. I was so stressed out. And then I started learning that successful leaders are often wearing the same thing every day, or when they have something like in a meeting or a presentation, they wear the same blazer every time. And I was like, oh my God, like I am so superficial. Why am I caring about all this stuff if it's stressing me out? And now that's just the old Marisa. I really could care less. And I like to wear like my same favorite 5 shirts and same favorite 5 pants like every day of the week.
Totally. I think that, that is just such a great example that we think certain decisions that we're making hold so much more value than they do. And that's the assessment stage. And it takes time. So it's okay that that took time. And you were a fashion major, so you were super excited about your clothes and like all of those things. And I remember that too. When I first started my corporate job, it was like, I wanted to look good. I wanted to be presentable and I wanted to do all of those things. So it was very much about that. But it's interesting because you can still hold like, I'm not like advocating that we all wear the same sweatshirt and sweatpants every single day. But what I'm saying is, to Jess's point, is just like get that ready the night before. Like shut off everything at 8 instead of 9:30 or 10:30 or 11 or 12. And just take 20 minutes to get everything ready. You're in a way clearer state of mind, and you won't regret doing that in the morning. And then if it's just like one accessory switch from, the earrings to the necklace, that's just one small thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I want people to feel good and look good. And I think that's very important. But to that point, and what was really interesting about that was that you said things started to set you off. And I think that's just a very interesting kind of like self-reflection of, honestly, the fact that I am taking time to decide what I want to wear in the morning is not only setting me up to really not live my best day ever, but it's causing me to off-put relationships and to work suboptimally and all of those things. And once you get to that point, kind of that tipping point, then it's time to like, all right, like I'm ready to make this change and I'm ready to, really focus on my productivity in the morning. And I think once you can do that, you start to implement the change. And sometimes it takes that catalyst to do it. And I hope people listening to this, it's like, wow, I do that. Like that's what I do in the morning, or like I forget to eat, or I don't get my food ready. I mean, unless it's on purpose and you're fasting, you don't really register that it's happening until you reflect on it. And once you make the change is when you just open up the possibility.
Bret, what is the ultimate goal here? Is it to form a routine so that things become second nature and require no mental energy at all? That's right.
I think it's twofold. I think routine is extremely important in the morning. I would say I don't live a routine life by any means. Traveling, running around, teaching, working different events, speaking at corporations. So my life isn't 9 to 5. But with that, I'm able to carve out small chunks of time in the morning and in the evening to set that day up for success. So the ultimate goal here is to really prime yourself, to get your body, your mind ready, and to be able to take on the day. So I love really just, getting into what works for certain people, and everybody's different. But the ultimate goal really is, am I giving myself the best opportunity to have that best day ever?
Yeah, I know that you're all about mastering your mornings, and you wrote some really helpful stuff about that. And we should get into that a little bit, because even though you're planning everything ahead to prevent that decision fatigue from starting early in the morning, there are some things that we can do in the morning that help us be more productive, help us get clarity on our goals. And really, sometimes that's the only time that we have to focus on that. So tell us about the miracle mornings.
Yeah, I think mastering the morning is it's an opportunity to set up the day for success. And I think to really simplify it, there's two major things we need to focus on. It's our mental and our physical. And once those start to blend together is when we really can take on anything. So when I'm working with somebody on their morning routine, I think we need to prime ourselves. And I go to the game mentality of, you've got a race that day, or you've got a presentation, or you've got the, final game of the championship, or, you've got your daughter's dance recital and you want to be on point for her when she's up there on stage. And I think we need to really treat ourselves like professionals. People always laugh about how much professionals are spending on their bodies and their routines that they're doing. And I'm talking about athletes. And well, there's a reason they do that, because it works and the ROI is there. So we need to think of ourselves as no longer amateurs. Like whatever you do, you are a professional at it. Once that mindset shifts to being a pro, you're like, wow, I really need to step up. Like, is this how Michael Jordan would get ready before a game? Is this how Serena Williams is prepping for Wimbledon? Like, those are how you need to prep for every single day. So I think there's two parts to that. The first part is that mental focus. We need to get our mindset right. And ways that I do that is doing quick breath work in the morning, and then just, waking up, boom, eyes open. I literally have a welcome mat to the left side of my bed when I step on that says have the best day ever. Like, I actually do. I can send you a picture. And it's just like a simple thing. Again, that's like funny and a joke, but like I see that and I'm like, all right, it's time to go. From there for me, and again, like my morning routine is very short because like I love to sleep. So when I get up at 4:15 for my 5 a.m. work, I'm condensing this down into 20 minutes, 15 minutes some days. Simple breathing. And then for me, because I'm putting my body under a lot of physical stress with running and lifting and just jet setting around the city and around the world, being on planes, I do a little bit of physical prep. So for me, it's identifying small, easy mobility routines to do in the morning, releasing some tension in my body, doing some stress relief through stretching. And then it's, packaging up everything I need for the day and then just heading out. So it doesn't have to be this 2-hour ordeal where you solve the world's problems before the day. But I think it's mental clarity and physical. And on that mental side too, it's like preparing yourself for the day. So first thing I do is not check social media. It's not check my emails, but it's like, look at, what do I have to get done for that day after I've done my breath work, after I've got my mindset right. So like, I'm ready to go. I'm primed up. And there's a bunch of different hacks and ways in which you can do that for yourself. And we can dive into those as we get into more like ideas around examples. But essentially just like cultivating that energy in the morning and saying, this is my time. This is the time I'm going to prep to be a professional for the day.
I recently read somewhere like what you do with the first 20 minutes of your day, it can create either success or failure. And I really do believe that to be true. I think starting the day on the right foot is everything. And that's why I love to create a morning ritual. I mean, I know, Bret, you said that yours was a combination of mental and physical. So that's going to be breath work and a little bit of mobility. Mine is just like sipping hot lemon water and reading a morning devotional. Marisa, what's yours?
Well, I was never a morning routine person, you guys. I always believed that I was destined for like a 2-hour groggy morning session for the rest of my life. Like, Jess, you've heard me tell you many times that my brain does not turn on until at least 2 hours after I wake up. But that changed recently, mostly because I followed this advice from one of those brief inspirational videos on YouTube by Mel Robbins. And she says that you have to count to 5 and just get out of bed. And I wasn't a big snooze button person, but I would do what a lot of people do. I would just grab my phone and scroll social media or text my friends or text my husband. And I would just take my sweet, sweet time. I would be like, hey, I'd rather wake up an hour earlier because I'm so groggy that I would just like to take an hour to drink my coffee and another hour to figure out my entire life. And that is honestly what I thought I was destined for until I started doing this thing that is so simple. I don't know how the heck it worked, you guys. I don't even know. Like, I am so not like that, but I just decided to do it. I've been doing it for like a month now, and I just get up. I don't even think about it. I don't look at my phone. I don't lie there and think how tired I am. And the whole reason that Mel was telling us we should do that is because when you lie there and you're dragging, you are not sending the right signals to your brain and to your body's hormone releases that are going to trigger adrenaline and cortisol and all these things that help us feel energized and awake. And your brain is like going to slip in and out of these sort of dozy states, like you're almost going to fall asleep, and you never really get that surge that you need to get going. And so to answer your question, my morning routine is really just shooting out of bed and getting right downstairs to drink. I drink decaf now, but I still love my morning coffee, and let the dogs out. And for a while I was using this app called Fabulous because it helps you create a morning routine. I'm just not a routine person. It just, maybe my ADD, I don't know. I can't do the same thing over and over and over. But this app, the worst name ever, called Fabulous, but it is an amazing, amazing app. And it's not just for women. I have no idea why they called it that, but it's incredible. I tell my clients about it now because it's so adaptive and it keeps you on time. And these little sounds go off like, oh, you fed the dogs. And anyways, it really helped me to see what I could do with an hour that I never, ever did before.
Totally. I think that it's simple things like that. And it's picking up one or two things and just starting to implement those over time. And what's cool, what you mentioned is the research now is really showing the how the hormone levels and how our body actually physically can change because of those things. And we just interviewed a guy on our podcast that I love the way he said it. He's just like, I like to create rhythm. So it's less about routine. He's like, I just like to start my day with like creating some rhythm. And I love that term because he's like, you just get things going. And like, when you're like getting into a flow state and everything's working, he's like, if you can create these rhythms and these daily things can help you get into that state, then it becomes repeatable and it doesn't feel routine. Like, I wish there was a better word instead of routine, because routine to me makes it sound like this standardized process that I do this and I'm a robot. And it's less robotic, but it's more just like, that's your being. And that's like what you're doing to prime yourself for the day. And so it's a mindset shift too about, how am I getting myself, like I said, in a professional way to execute my day at the highest level. And yes, it's priming. Like, before you run a marathon, you better stretch. Like, you can't just go out and do it. If you're in the NBA finals, like you're eating the same meal before every single game because that's what's going to help you perform. You guys know this from a nutrition perspective, like certain foods will help your mental clarity, will help you lose fat and gain muscle. Like there is science behind that. So why not? Why do we not do that every single day? And it's because things get in the way and we let things happen to us that we feel are out of our control. But what I like about creating this routine is you can take it with you. So with all the travel I do, the reason my routine is simple is I can take that to Tulum, or I can take that to Paris, or I can take that to Wyoming, and I can do it anywhere I want. So it's not this like lavish, crazy 4-hour thing, because you want to be able to bring it with you and you want to be able to do it wherever you can. And I think that once you can do that, every single day just becomes a little bit better. And then once that starts to compound, you're doing crazy cool things.
I almost want to backtrack a little bit and just like emphasize this for our listeners. I think you said something like first thing in the morning, you don't even look at your social media. I think I used to do that a really long time ago. Not a long time ago. It's pretty recent, actually. I used to constantly just scroll through Instagram in the morning, and it really does not set you up for success, because now you're consumed in other people's lives and you're really not focusing on something that you said a few minutes ago, like, this is my time. The mornings are my time. Like, I don't want it to be consumed in, someone else's life on social media. Or I think that's why social media detoxes are so popular right now, right?
Yeah, for sure. If I'm on social media in the morning, it's to post. And I'll actually use a different app to post than what I'm on social. So I actually don't see any other posts that come up. And I think it's your time to get ready. It's your time to set yourself up. And I think if we can create more than we consume, we will be beneficial to society and to the world. And creating starts with your morning cup of coffee, like you said, or that lemon water, or that 5-second countdown and going. Like, you are now creating, whether that's the rhythm, the routine, the priming, to then go out and do. And I think the less we can consume and the more that we can create, starting from the moment you wake up, the more productive you will be, the more efficient you will be. And honestly, the more you're able to give back to others, which I think is kind of the stem of what Live Better stands for. It's practicing self-care as a priority, so then you can give more back to other people, and you can give more to more people. When the oxygen mask falls on the airplane, you put yours on first, so then you can help somebody, because if you don't put yours on, you're done. And self-care, when done concisely and done with purpose, doesn't take that much time. It's amazing that as human beings, we can really only need to put in a little bit of work for ourselves to then give back exponentially to other people. And once you start doing that, your mindset shifts, your body, the hormones, like all of that starts working, because you made a conscious decision to give yourself some love, and then to go out and give more back to everybody around us, because we all know we could use a little bit more of that.
Absolutely. Bret, I know you have so much advice to give. If there's anything else you want to say before we start wrapping up, of course, you're going to have to tell everyone where to find you and Live Better Co. and where they can continue to find this motivation. But, go ahead and let us know if there's any more advice you have to give, and we'll start saying goodbye.
Yeah, awesome. This has been great. I think if I can preach just like one thing, and you guys touched on it, and we were talking about it, is this concept of consistency. Nothing will happen overnight. Even if you lay out your clothes the night before, nothing will happen in a month. Small things will start happening in 2 months. You'll start seeing some cool things happening after 3 or 4 or 5. But if there's one thing that will actually work, it's this consistency. And with that, the hardest part of that is the fact that you don't see the change that quickly. We live in an instant world with Instagram, and instant messenger, where we just are berated by things having to happen instantly. Nothing good happens that quickly. It's not worth it if it happens that quickly. You want it to take time. And once you can shift that mindset, the fact that I was starting Live Better and working my job for like 4 years overlapping. That didn't happen in one day. And I couldn't be more happy that it didn't happen in one day. I would never want to win the lottery because it's too quick. And that's why when people win the lottery, 9 out of 10 of them go bankrupt. Instant gratification is not the measure of success. And it's worth the grind. And with that, and I'll speak truthfully, there's some mornings I wake up and I don't get my routine done. There's some Sundays I get home late and I don't get my meals prepped. There's some days I wake up and I posted an Instagram post the night before, and the first thing I do is I check it. So it's not perfect, and that's okay. But it's reflecting on that and being like, oh, dang, I did do that, and I'm not going to do that again, or I'm going to try my best to do this 4 out of 5 days, or 5 out of 6 days, 6 out of 7 days. And just understanding that consistency pays off, and to not beat yourself down if there's one day that you don't do it, or to your point that some days you need that, hour in the morning to just chill and hang out. And there's nothing wrong with that, but to create this rhythm, to do it consistently for what that means to you will be the only way that this works. So in 6 months from now, when you've done your routine every day for 6 months, or 4 out of the 5 days for 6 months, and you start to feel better, that's when you know it worked. So that consistency pays off. And I'm just super happy and helpful in any way that anybody that's listening to this wants help in creating that, or a sounding board, or a community to do so. I'm here. You can find me personally at Bret with just 1 T. Everyone always says 2, 1T _ Gornik on Instagram. Live Better Co. is my business's Instagram. livebetterco.org is our website. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up in Chicago this summer. We're putting together some really cool event series, some around food, a lot around yoga, and doing really cool rooftop yoga events. We're doing a bunch of cool talks and smaller sort of panel discussions and workshops. A lot of it will be about this. We have a weekly email we send out every Wednesday called Wake Up Wednesday, which you can subscribe to on our website, which is strategies and tools and kind of creating that community online so that you can continue to upgrade. So there's a bunch of ways to connect. We also have our own podcast. So if you want to hear us interviewing other people and hear about how they're creating their morning routines as well. And then again, I'm always there on a DM or on an email to chat. If you're local in Chicago, I love to grab a matcha and chat about it. So always down for those conversations. And I just couldn't be more grateful to be on your guys' show this morning.
You were amazing. Thank you so much for being on here today. And to all of our listeners, share this episode with someone who needs a little pick-me-up and let us know what you think. Leave us a review on iTunes or come chat with us on Facebook on the Foundation of Wellness podcast.
Yes. Bye, Bret. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to all the listeners. I'm so glad they got to meet you because you really are one of the most inspirational people in my life. And I'm so glad you were here today.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys. And everybody that's listening, you guys included, make today the best day ever.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bret.
Bye.
See you guys.